Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Bible class today. It's good to see all of you. We are, Braden, good to see you this morning. Welcome back. I don't know if you say welcome home, but welcome here. We are continuing in our theme of the mission of God, the Missio Dei. And I wanted to go back to what we did last week and talk a little bit more about the Psalms. And there was an activity of sorts. It was a mild activity. So we're not doing calisthenics or greet your neighbor or anything like that. So I won't put you through that. But I was curious to hear from y'all about songs in our hymn books that we sing as a church that connect us back to the mission of God. So what songs come to your mind that tie us back to our purpose and our mission? And so just as Israel in the early church that used the Psalms as their songbook, we don't do that, and I think it'd be kind of cool if we somehow did. There's kind of a couple of songs that are basically psalms, or a lot of the wording of them come from the Psalms, but mostly we don't use the Psalter as our songbook. But still, we have songs that connect us to the mission of God and our purpose as a church. And so I want to talk a little bit more about that as to why that is. Why would we sing about the mission? But also I'm curious to hear from y'all if you have some songs that come to your mind of that connect us to that mission. But I want to start with a couple different, before we get there, I wanted to open up the bulletin actually and read just a little bit of Ben's article. I don't know if you're in the habit of getting the bulletin and reading it. I hope that you do. I hope that it's Robin does such a good job on bringing everything together. It's quite the job for her to do. And but then various people contribute to the bulletin. Ben does. Every now and then he'll get someone to write his article for him in the small group section on page 2. I know Justin just did that a couple of weeks ago, and it seems like somebody else did that recently. But Ben, every week he's got a great article in here, and so it's kind of hidden on page 2 at the bottom. But he does a really, you can tell he puts a lot of thought into it, and he has something good to say, and a lot of times very practical, useful things. So I just wanted to read a little bit of that. Talking about small groups and how most groups, if I think maybe all groups, have taken a break for the summer, but going to pick back up in August, September. So be looking for those sign-up lists. But he says, this is Ben Williams on page 2 of the bulletin, accommodating absences due to vacations and erratic summer schedules are major reasons we've adjourned the small group program for the summer. Adjournment, however, carries its risks. One risk is that we revert to being a church that is all about Sunday service and little else. So when we take a break from small groups, one of the dangers is that we kind of put all of our eggs into this basket. Now, I don't think anybody would disagree that the Sunday morning worship and assembly is really important, and we need to emphasize that and not take anything away from it. But it's not important in the sense of, if we do that, then we don't have to do anything else, right? And so I really think it's a negative sign if a church becomes too Sunday centric. Does that make sense? That language, Sunday centric, and you actually see it. I'm not thinking of churches of Christ as much right now, but you see a lot of churches that are very entertainment heavy. That's not the nicest way to say that, but very performance and experience. And so the worship assembly is a ton of work goes into the production of Sunday morning. And I think there's some good things about that there could be some good things about the kind of really focusing on this moment, because this is a time where we have most of the church together. We don't have another time of the week where we have most of the church together. We have a lot of visitors and those sorts of things. So we do this really well. There's something good good to say to that, but there's a danger if we put all of the eggs in this basket of the assembly, especially if we're thinking about kind of entertainment and experience, and we lose sight of the fact that we're supposed to be doing this all the time, right? The early church met. Mark, what's Acts 2 say? The early church met how often? Once a week? No, every day. So you haven't even sat down yet and you've been asked a question. But every day they're meeting in homes and they're together and they're encouraging and they're partaking in the mission. So yeah, we can lose sight of that. That's the way that we're designed to really be in community with each other. Okay, I've only gotten through one paragraph. This is Ben Williams' article on page 2 of the bulletin. So paragraph number 2, while placing so much emphasis on Sunday service may continue to draw a crowd, it's insufficient to advance people forward to discipleship. To the contrary, it relinquishes our spiritual learning, devotions, and obligations to a few gifted leaders. Thank you, Ben. That's nice of you to say that. Just joking. All right. We become their customers rather than their co-laborers. How does that language hit you? Customers rather than co-laborers. And that's kind of part of what we were just saying with the entertainment, that we come, if church is about just the Sunday experience and this one moment, then it can be we can have a very much a customer mindset of what do I get out of this? Other people are up here performing and doing things, and I just kind of sit there passively and take it in and hopefully feel better if they do a good job. And I'll kind of approve or disapprove of how they do. But it's really just I'm taking this in, and hopefully when I leave, I feel better. And, that was a good service. Or do we see ourselves as co-laborers, right? As we're consuming something. I'll be preaching a little bit, but I'll also be sitting and I'll be listening. I'll be taking in, and we consume, and that's good for us. We need to consume. But are we co-laborers? Is church designed to not just make us more passive and sedentary, like couch potatoes or pew potatoes? There's got to be an equivalent to that. Are we taking in? But does it really prompt us to get up out of the pew and to live out our faith? So anyway, Ben's article made me think, I'll stop reading it there. You can read the rest of it on your own. But it just made me think of, this is why some of the apparatuses that we have, or some of the ways that we configure our assemblies and things that we do, they really matter. They're not just small group like, well, here's another chance to do a little bit more. But it's a different way of engaging. It has a different purpose of helping us disciple each other, of helping us get to know each other, of encouraging us to go on and do good. So, all right. So reading that, I thought that ties in with the Missio Dei, the mission of God. I mean, the reason we exist as a church and the things that we do are hopefully aligning with that mission of, small groups is just one example, but they don't just exist because, there's some church somewhere in California or Chicago that's doing small groups and it worked for them and we want to try that too and people like it. Those are maybe fine, decent reasons to try something like that, but there's bigger reasons, which are God's mission and knowing each other and really being impacted by the gospel and thinking of how do we grow and how do we take this to other people. So that's why we do those things. I wanted to read. This is the second bit of reading, and I usually don't do this. So you are subjected to some Ben's article, and then this. I want to read a paragraph out of here. We were reading this book on Wednesday night. It's called A Place to Belong: Learning to Love the Local Church. Have any of you read this? You've read that. Okay, great. Anybody else read this? It's an excellent book, and it's very biblical, and it's very every page there's scripture citations, and it's very practical, and it's very simple, and it's been just it's been something that we've read together and then had really good discussions on, and we're just about done with it. But the chapter last week was about missions. And I thought it was really timely because we are leaving, a group of us are leaving this coming Friday to go to Belize for a week. And she was talking about how her church helps missionaries in Papua New Guinea. And they took up a collection at one point to help with a Bible translation. That they didn't have the Bible translated in a language, and so they took up a collection. And she was describing how even her own children went in and raided their piggy banks and donated money so that the Bible could be translated. And you might hear a story like that and think, oh, that's just cute, and that's good for the kids to do, to learn how to sacrifice or that sort of thing. But throughout the chapter, she's emphasizing a theological vision of that mission work. And that is to say, like the eternal significance of that kind of help, that kind of work, that kind of sacrifice. And I thought that was really helpful because, and I'm going to read just a little bit in here in just a second, but sometimes when it comes to our mission work, I don't know if you're like this too, but sometimes it can be, we can have a very like pragmatic sort of approach to it. Like we don't grasp the true significance of what we're doing, what we're trying to do, the kind of eternal difference that God is doing through us. We might just think, well, we're just going to Belize. That's good for some people to do. We're just doing a VBS. We're just doing, and we think about numbers of people going and the amount of money that's spent on that, and kind of look at all of that and think, well, is it really worth it? And practical considerations and this and that, and those are important things to consider. But what if we step back and looked at it more theologically, to say what's God doing through all of that? So here's this is how she ends her chapter. In eternity, when we are finally gathered with our Ngave brothers and sisters, that's the name of the group of the people in Papua New Guinea. In eternity, when we're finally gathered with our Ngave brothers and sisters who studied the Bible with spirit-opened eyes and trusted in Christ with spirit-enabled faith, the members of my church will have a share in the heavenly rejoicing. We will worship in the near presence of Christ, hand in hand with everyone who gave and prayed and worked for the spread of the gospel in Papua New Guinea. The children who emptied their piggy banks and the elderly women who prayed in their homes will stand together with the Bible translators, and the Lamb will receive all the glory. The members of the local church may seem insignificant, but from the perspective of heaven, they are vital partners in the work of the gospel. So just powerful to consider. This church, I think she's in New England somewhere. Most of them, they were sending money to Bible translators. That it wasn't like a group like we have coming from a lot of us from the church and going down. They were just helping other people in this remote place of the world that people they would never meet, never see. But one day, Lord willing, in heaven, where you get to, just imagine the way that those acts of sending money to help a Bible translation may lead people to Christ, and to get to meet those people in heaven. There's a song that you guys know the song, We Shall Assemble. We shall assemble on the mountain. And I know I've shared this before, but when I was at Harding, I went on some mission trips and went to Panama. And here, when people say Panama, they usually mean Florida, but Panama City. And that was confusing because I'd never been to Panama City, Florida, but I've been to Panama City, Panama. So people would say, I'm going to Panama City. And anyway, so I went down there, and my good friend Raul Alvarado, who is, he's Panamanian, and he actually at my wedding, if those of you who were at my wedding many years ago now. But it was his favorite song. And I remember we hiked up to this point on a mountain out there, and there was a big cross, and we stood around that, and we sang that song, We Shall Assemble on the Mountain. And every time I sing that song, it's weird. It's about every time I sing that song, I think about him. And I think I don't ever get to see him because he's in Panama and he's there with his family and I'm here. But one day, we shall assemble. And all of those people that we've impacted and that have impacted us, that will gather again before the throne of God. And I'll just confess, I don't usually live with that kind of theological, eternal vision of my life to think what we're doing really matters. And one day we'll stand with Christ and we'll stand with one another and we'll get to see it. We'll get to see that these little things that we just kind of got tired of doing and didn't know if they really made a difference, they did make a difference. And you'll see people there who maybe have a story of, you didn't know me, but what you did mattered. And that's a song, We Shall Assemble, is not a song that I'm not sure if it has really overt mission kind of lyrics to it of, I want to be a worker for the Lord sort of thing. But it's one that I think of with implications of the Missio Dei, the mission of God, because it gives me a vision of what it'll be like one day to assemble with the church, to assemble with the people that we've loved, that have impacted us, that we've impacted. So that's one song that I'd draw out. This is probably a good time for me just to turn it to y'all. I've got a couple other songs that I would point to, but are there songs in the songbook that you think of when you think of the mission of God, that just when you think of what God is doing in the world, what we're supposed to do in the world, songs that we sing, which ones come to your mind? Brother Mark. Good. Yeah, I thought of that song too because it's kind of like We Shall Assemble, but when we all get to heaven, right? When we're all there, boy, that kind of vision, I think, really can impact how we live day to day, to give us encouragement to say, these things that they begin to feel routine, we begin to wonder, are we making any difference? In just a little while, it'll pass just as time passes so quickly. In just a little while, we'll be there and we'll see the impact. Yeah. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am. Good. Do you have a number on that? 643? Okay. 643, sowing the seed of the kingdom. Let's look at that real quick. I should have asked Mickey if he would lead some of these, but what number was it? 643. Yeah. Yeah, and that one is put in a question, right? Are you sowing the seeds of the kingdom, sowing the seed of the kingdom, brother or sister, we would add, right? This is not just for men to do. Are you a sibling? Are you sowing the seed of the kingdom? And boy, that's kind of a direct song, isn't it? If we're singing that song, and we're asking ourselves and we're asking one another, are you doing this? And in both in deed and in word. So good, thank you, Carol.
All of these songs and heavenly calls are kind of invitations, like the prophet did, but specifically 934, softly and tender, Jesus is calling you and me.
Yeah, good. Softly and tenderly, Jesus is calling you and me. That's good. And I think some of these songs, we can sing them and make them all about ourselves. And that's a song that I think, oh, that's so sweet, Jesus is calling me. But sometimes we need kind of kicked in the seat a little bit and think, well, it's calling not just me, but also you, right? And I think sometimes even very missional songs, because if we're not engaged in God's mission, we read those and we hear those as if they're just about me and my own faith. But if Jesus is calling you, then that may mean that he's calling me to do something about you, not just calling me for his relationship with me. Right? Good, yeah. Okay, what song is that? What number? 644. Good. You like the chorus. You want to sing it for us, Diane? Not alone, anyway. Yeah, tell them of Jesus. That's not one. Ring out the message, or yeah, that's not one that we sing that often, is it? Mickey, do we sing that song very often? You know, that may be. This may be interesting. You know, we've wondered. There's a lot of. We have a lot of strengths as a congregation. We're a wonderful congregation. But I also think, and I've heard from people just, and through this class and through other people's feedback, just the question of how much are we engaging the mission? How much are we sharing our faith with people and trying to reach our neighbors? And so you wonder, you know, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? If we're not, there's a lot of songs in here we don't sing. They're not just all about mission stuff. But if we're not singing missional songs, why is that? It makes you wonder, is it because we don't know the songs or we don't like them as much? Or is it because we don't like to sing these songs because we don't really want to do this stuff? And it's hard work and it calls us to get out of our comfort zones. And so if we just kind of ignore those songs and sing other happy songs about our personal faith with Jesus, then we'll all feel better. And if we ignore some of these other songs about telling the lost and, you know, those sorts of things, then, so which comes first? Is it that we stop singing and then we maybe we lose sight of our mission, or do we lose sight of our mission and then we choose not to sing these songs? But they're there, and I think they're there to kind of goad us to, you know, do more, do better. Yeah. Joan, do you have one?
Number 718, 719, we shall assemble and love one another.
Good. Okay, so 718 and 719. We shall assemble and then love one another. Is that the 4-part song? I think Mickey led that just last week. Oh, no, this is Angry Words. Yep. Yeah, I love this one too. Angry words, oh, let them never from my tongue unbridled slip. May the heart's best impulse ever check them ere they soil the lip. That's good stuff. And I love the chorus there. Love one another. Thus saith the Savior, children obey the Father's blessed command. Good. Yeah, David.
I like, there's 2 songs, 395, Follow Me, and then the best one I really like is 570, A Beautiful Life.
Okay, good. So let me look at 570. How does that one connect, David? If I could put you on the spot, just without really looking at it, how does it connect to the mission, the beautiful life? Mm-hmm.
Serve and to do a good deed each day that we live.
Mm.
If it's just, and then of course the other one, Follow Me. If God places a cup of cold water in your hand, that's all He demands.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's very little, but I think it all goes back to He gives some greater responsibility because He benefits, and then some like the talents.
Mm-hmm.
1 talent, He expected 1 more talent.
Yeah.
With the 5 talents, He expected somebody to give 10. So
Yeah.
I think it's just the looking at if someone's on the side of the road or somebody needs a cup of cold water.
Mm-hmm.
that's
Yeah.
not-
That's good. Yeah, each day I'll do a golden deed, you know, and it may be pretty small. I think sometimes we want to have big opportunities to really impact people, but most of our lives we don't get those. We get small things. I mean, even you think of your children and the ways that what parenting looks like. You know, it's not every day. It's a big thing that's going to change their lives, and and sometimes it's small things that change their lives in big ways we have no idea about, but it's little things that God calls us to do. And isn't it amazing that God gives us enough for ourselves, but He also always gives us enough to share, all right, to impact other people, and if we're looking for those opportunities. Kathy. Good. Oh yeah. Yeah, that one may be with the first, what is it? Come we that love the Lord. It may be, sometimes they're in the index in weird ways. Yes. So what is it about marching to Zion that makes you think of God's mission? Yeah. Good. Mm-hmm. That's good. Yeah, and it makes you think of, well, I think it's Mike. Is it Micah chapter 2, and it's in Isaiah, or maybe it's Isaiah chapter 2, where all the nations come, right, to the mountain of the Lord. And the idea of marching is like there's work for us to do, right? And we have purpose, we have direction, and there's others that are going to be joining us. So, which we're marching to. I know that song's in there because we've sung it a lot. What's it listed as? Come we love the Lord, yeah. Which is so strange that would be the title of it. So, yeah, sometimes I don't know why. Mickey could tell us why they put the first line of the song rather than the title. Sometimes it's so weird. Your ex-girlfriend was an editor. Okay, enough said. Yeah. So there you have it. But yeah, we've tried to find where in the world where are these songs, and I've had that experience too. And then you're like, then you're like, I can't think of the first. How does it start? That's the problem. I don't know. Very good. All right. Anybody else on a song that connects to the mission of God? Go tell it on the mountain. That's great. What number? 1012. Go tell it on the mountain. That's one of those December Christmas songs, but we don't even sing that one very often. And it doesn't have to just be in December. But yeah, go tell it on the mountain. I mean, publish this good news of what God has done, that Jesus has been born, right? Jesus Christ is born. That's good news. Yeah, I think sometimes we don't say more about our faith because I think sometimes we see ourselves more as we have to be like philosophers, or we have to argue with people. We have to be good at this. And really, the first evangelists in Scripture were just people that shared the news, what God had done, what happened in Jesus. And there you have it, the same kind of go tell it on the mountain that Jesus is born. That's where it starts. Share about Christ. All right. Anybody else? I think I saw. Yes, ma'am. Okay. 364. Oh, good. A communion song. 364. Come share the Lord. And can I put you on the spot and ask? Don't do that. Okay. Well. Yeah, that's good. Connects to heaven too, right? It's interesting how many of these songs connect us to heaven and sitting at the table in heaven with Christ. And I love that idea of share the Lord. You're just inviting, if there's free food somewhere and there's enough not only for you but somebody else, you probably bring a friend, right? And that's kind of this, it's the Lord who provides. It's the Lord's table. It's the Lord's supper. And so we just are called to come and to bring people with us. Right? Yeah. Okay. Well, let's look back at, just real quick, Psalm 96, because I think that this psalm is just a remarkable psalm, and one that really does, it's a really explicit example of the mission of God in the Psalms. And if you go through the Psalms, you'll realize you kind of scratch your head a little bit because you think, these were the songs of Israel in the early church. I mean, these don't seem like just very uncharacteristic from our songs and our songbooks and the kind of focus that our songs have. For instance, the fact that 40% of them are laments, right? That they're complaints to God. And I don't know how many songs in our songbooks are complaints to God or arguing with God or feeling abandoned by God. There are probably not very many in there, just a handful. But 40% of the Psalms in the Psalter are complaints to God. And so the nature of their worship, I think, was a little different than ours is. But you see this, the mission here in Psalm 96, and I'll just read this. And then I want to ask some questions about why do we sing the mission? Why did Israel and the early church incorporate the mission into its worship? And why, in so many examples in our songbooks, do we do the same? So Psalm 96 says, "Oh, sing to the Lord a new song. Sing to the Lord, all the earth. Sing to the Lord, bless his name, and tell of his salvation from day to day. Declare his glory among the nations, his marvelous works among all the peoples. For great is the Lord and greatly to be praised. He is to be feared above all gods. For all the gods of the peoples are worthless idols, but the Lord made the heavens. Splendor and majesty are before him. Strength and beauty are in his sanctuary. Ascribe to the Lord, O families of the peoples. Ascribe to the Lord glory and strength. Ascribe to the Lord the glory due his name. Bring an offering and come into his courts. Worship the Lord in the splendor of holiness. Tremble before him, all the earth. Say among the nations, the Lord reigns, yet the world is established. Yes, the world is established. It shall never be moved. He will judge the peoples with equity. Let the heavens be glad and let the earth rejoice. Let the sea roar and all that fills it. Let the field exult and everything in it. Then shall all the trees of the forest sing for joy before the Lord, for he comes to judge the earth. He will judge the world in righteousness and the peoples in his faithfulness." Just all kinds of things in there about mission. And one is just abundance of praise that the people have for God, that they're praising the Lord. But it's not just enough for them to praise, but they say, "Come and praise him with us." It's like when you hear a good joke, what's the first thing that you want to do? You got to tell somebody the joke. Stephen and I, we went to see Nate Bargatze one time. Is that how you say his name? And then the car ride home, we were trying to repeat the jokes. We're like, we just can't do it. They're not funny when we say them. I was really bad at it, but it's like something about the way that he says these are so funny. And we try to say the same thing verbatim, and they just sound so dumb. So it's frustrating. But you hear a joke and you want to repeat it. I mean, that's what you want to, oh, this one was funny, or you'll enjoy this too, and you want to share it. And it's kind of the same thing with the praise of God. When you're really filled with praise for God, what do you want to do? Well, you can't keep it in. And you can't keep it to yourself, right? You have to go and find somebody and bring them in and say, come do this with me. And so this is not just something that Israel was doing, individuals, but really the entire people of Israel were doing this collectively. They were already together. They already had company, but they wanted more, right? This was supposed to overflow not just from an individual, but from the people to other peoples. And so that's what the psalm is all about. It's come and praise the Lord with us. And so, and it's directed at these people, which is kind of weird because usually you think of an assembly like ours would mostly be Christian people. I mean, and people are driving by and going to Walmart and getting gas, and pretty soon they're going to be, I guess, changing their tires over there on Sunday mornings. And so we think, are they going to hear? Maybe we should open the windows and they'll hear us praising God, and they'll be like, okay, we'll come in too. But are they really going to hear what we're saying? And maybe they will. Maybe there'll be guests here, right? I think in Israel's worship, there would have been some people that didn't necessarily belong fully to the people that were overhearing these songs. So bringing people in and reminding the people of what they needed to do to declare God's glory, and just how great God is, and the reminder that God was not the possession of Israel. And I think that's part of why this idea of mission is so important, because sometimes we can have such a self-focus that God is our God, almost like he serves us in this family rather than he's a big God and we serve him. and he wants us to, he's interested in other people, and he wants us to be interested in other people too. All right, so let me ask this. We've got about 10 minutes, and I've got some answers to this, but I want to hear what your thoughts are about why would we want to sing the mission of God? That is to say, why is it in the Psalms, and why is it in our songbook? Why is it not just in other scriptures? You know, why we read about it in Genesis, we'll read about it in Isaiah, we read about it in the New Testament, you know, where God talks about and people know about what they need to be doing and about the mission and what God is doing. But why would it also be included in the Psalms? Why would it be part of the songs that are being sung, the mission? What do you think? Yeah, Carol.
I think it's because you don't just have to know this information, you have to feel it.
Wow. You have to feel it and not just know it. And songs are a great source of that, right? A great way that we learn to feel, that we and I like learn to feel is a good way to say that, because a lot of times we don't feel the way that we need to feel. And our faith is not just about, and church is not just about knowing what we don't know, but it's also about learning to feel how we ought to feel about the right things. And so songs do that. I was reading something the other day about the French word. Joan, you'll know the French word for sing. You remember? Joan's always speaking French to me. Chanter, right? Chanter. And what do you say when you meet somebody for the first time? Enchanté, right? Great to meet you. Or enchanted. And I was reading how that word connects to singing, to enchant, right? Which is just really fascinating. When we are, like, you think of someone who's enchanted. I think there's a movie called Enchanted, but that my daughters watched. You think of someone who's enchanted, they're like, oh, they're under a spell, and they're acting really weird, and they're just very moved and overcome. And that's what singing kind of does to us, right? It enchants us. When we sing, we kind of take on a new spirit, or we learn to feel in different ways. So yeah, it's part of why we sing the mission. Is Carol's point is brilliant. It's not just we need to know, but we need to really feel. We need to have energy. We need to have passion. We need to have joy for this work. We need to feel the weight of it, right? And songs can do that in a way that just talking can't, right? Yeah, Kathy.
Speaking in parables, you tend to remember that.
Mm,
We teach our kids the books of the Bible around beginning
yeah,
of Daniel and Elijah.
it's good.
You still remember that to this day.
Yeah, yeah, amen.
Stays in your memory better than someone just telling you something.
That's great. Yeah, I keep invoking Mickey's name because he's the musical expert here, but I've heard him make that same point, and I was expecting him to make it if somebody else didn't. But how singing is tied to memory. And part of it is, I think it goes back to what Carol was saying, is when you get, and I'm not, well, I guess I am an educator now, so I got to be careful what I say. I got things to learn, apparently. But, teachers will know this well, that when you get more of a person involved in something, they're more likely to learn it, not just reading information, but when they experience it, when they feel it. And so I think part of why we remember is because our affections are also kind of pulled into that. And so it's not just ideas, but it's also, but there's something about, and Mickey maybe you want to share some, but just there's something about the habitual rhythm and the music and the cadences and the notes and all of that kind of tied to the content makes it more memorable, and it sticks with us. And so, yeah, memory, when we sing something, we're a lot more likely to remember it. Mickey, how did I do there? What would you add to that?
That's great. The fact that it wouldn't be that you were singing it by yourself. Part of that memory is who you're singing with, and that also makes it deeper into your soul.
Wow, yeah, that's powerful. So it's singing. My example of "We Shall Assemble," right? That song, I know the song, I know the words of the song, and I remember that. But I also associate those with times and places and people that mean a lot to me. And songs have some kind of power to do that. There was a song that came on the radio. Any of y'all hear a song every now and then, you're like, I haven't heard that for a long time, and it takes you back to like high school or something. Like, ooh, that's kind of weird. I haven't heard that song forever. And now all of a sudden you're thinking of people that you haven't thought of for forever. And so singing the mission with the people of God ought to do that here, right, in the assembly, that we not only are we more likely to remember what we're singing, the content, but we're also remembering each other, and that stays in our heads too, right? Don, I saw your hand, and then David.
Encouraging and motivating.
Good.
I think of military people, the chants they sing and the things they do.
Mm-hmm.
It makes it something that encourages you and motivates you to do what you need to do. And
That's good.
going back to Nikki's topic there, I think music puts a hook so that it catches in your mind and stays there. I know when I was teaching science, I would make up these little ditties and things that, and I have kids come up to me 45 years later, and they still sing the metric system, the elements of the periodic table, those sorts of things. And it's not because I was a great teacher, it's because we sang.
Yeah. Well, because you were a great teacher. I've heard things about you, Don. Yeah, so there's a couple things there. I mean, one is the encouragement of it. We drove yesterday with my mom to Texarkana and back. That was a full day, and just for fun, we just wanted to do that. No, we we had I always struggle how to say that my sister's husband's parents were having their 50th celebration, 50th anniversary. So we wanted to go down and be part of that, but the kids were on the phones more than they should have been to get through that time. And my mom was saying, when we were kids, what did you say? You said we were singing rounds in the car just to stay, right? Camp songs or whatever it was that you were singing, but help pass the time, but also just kind of infuse some positivity into an otherwise kind of grueling experience of a long road trip smashed together in a car. And so the military people working, picking cotton in the field, singing songs together, whatever it is, the seven dwarves that whistled while they worked, that kind of thing helps pass the time, but also gives some kind of encouragement. I also think of just the unison of that, the unity of that we are reminded as we sing together that this is not just, we all have a part to play in the mission. We all have a part, but it's not just up to me, right? Thankfully, Don is helping, and Mickey's helping, right? And Carol's helping, and my mom's helping, all of that. There's other people that are contributing to this. I'm not in it alone, and sometimes it can feel like we are, but we're not. Yeah, David.
3:16 says, "Let the word of Christ dwell in you richly in all wisdom, teaching and admonishing one another in psalms and hymns and spiritual songs, singing with grace in your hearts to the Lord."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a powerful passage, right? Sing to the Lord, and spiritual psalms, right? Too is added in there. So maybe that's a good reason for us to sing more of the Psalms. It's very scriptural. It's actually in there in the New Testament.
Yeah, we're actually talking to one another, we're singing to one another.
That's right.
And connecting that way. And that, I'll remember when Levi was real small, and Steph's got to be, I think, showing us a video of back in his car seat, he's singing, "Our God, how great is our God," and this.
Yeah.
He talked to me.
Yeah. Powerful. And I think that's an aspect of singing that when we think of singing in worship, we usually think about the best, and I kind of have thought this at points too, the best songs that we sing are the direct songs to God, like holy, 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 right? Or something about I am worshiping God as I sing this, right? I am talking to God. But a passage like that shows us actually another function of our singing is we're singing to each other, we're talking to each other. And so some of the songs that you're like, why are we singing this in church? Because it's not about, sing and be happy, for instance. Just one that pops in my head. It's like, that's not really, I love you, God, and it's singing. I'm talking to the church when I sing that. Why would we? Well, there's scriptural reason to do that, right? We're told to sing and instruct one another, talk to one another. And so we do that with the mission too, right? Well, the last thing I'll say, and then I'll let you go, is I think y'all got my answers that I was going to share here. So I was glad that you did. But just one observation is, really when you think about it, this story, the mission of God, it infuses everything that we do. And it's part of everything. So why would it not be part of our songs? I mean, that's kind of a cop-out answer, but God's mission and purpose in and through us and in the world shows up in everything that we do. And so it also shows up in our songs. How could it not? So thank y'all for a great class and a lot of participation today. I really appreciate that. And next Sunday, Lord willing, I'm going to be in Belize, and so there's going to be a guest teacher in here who's to be determined. But there'll be a guest teacher in here, and I guess a guest preacher next Sunday. I'll be teaching and preaching in Belize, and then I'll be back with you the week after that. So see you then.